Hello again. We're back. I want to just pick up where we left off in the last video, and talk a little bit more about attributes, and then kind of I'll move on to the broader topics. So, last time we took this attribute and put it down in the main, what I'm going to call the main body of the program. So we're no longer in the class, but this m1.type is actually what we dragged here from self.type. So in other words, it knows enough to go into this class and pull out the type for, in this case, M1. Had I put M2 in here, we could have showed the monkey coming into as a warm-blooded mammal. But as we probably know, that we can actually have more than just mammals as monkeys. We're going to do now. Actually, let me just bring these guys up. And we're going to bring in a dog here. And let's say we want to expand what we know already. So in other words, we're going to bring in another instance, as it says. And not only do we want to know a little bit about the mammal, but we might want to define something a little bit more. So here we have a D1, a dog, which means they're going to have a new class, but we're going to put two inputs in that are of the shape of mammal, type and noise. So in this case, the noise is going to be rough. And I'm going to grab, oops, actually I'm going to leave that on there. This and create two more. Oops, put it in the wrong spot. Let me grab it again. And I'll put it here. And let me give us a little bit more space so we can see everything. So now we have a class mammal and a class dog. These are two separate classes. However, what we're going to do here is what we refer to as inheritance, which merely means we're going to take mammal and everything about mammal and bring it into dog and then add to it. So a dog is a type of mammal that has more, might have different attributes or things we want to do. The other thing that we have is we are going to bring in another function definition, which is of the get variety. So in many programming languages, and when they create a class, they love to do these things called gets and sets. Get means we're going to get information about the object. Set is going to set information about the object. Now we kind of did a set up here when we created this attribute. You can do this in the initial function, or you can do this in a later function. Either way. And there's different reasons for this. The more secure usually you want to be is the more you want to put it into a function. But here, as you'll see, we have this dog class. Maybe I'll separate it with one space just to give it a little bit extra. And then you will see the word mammal here. So pretty similar to this one, other than we just brought the mammal in. Then you'll see another function definition with the word init. Because this is a new class, even though we're inheriting the old class, we still have to set up that constructor. And then, and if you look at this, we have the identical look to our initial one, because remember, we want to keep those same parameters. But what else do we want to do? Well, we want to grab all the old information from the last file. So when we do the super, what this refers to is this class. And what do we have in this class? Well, we have the type and the noise passed down. Granted, at this point, type was, monkey or camel, and then we didn't have noise, but noise could come in as something blank. But here, we're actually going to define the noise as an attribute not of the mammal, but of the dog. So the dog is going to have a specific attribute. And then we can run whatever we want to run. But I'm going to get to this function next. And once you go into classes, a lot of times they like to call them methods, but essentially they are the same thing. They're essentially chunks of programming. They're self-contained, and and you can call them as much as you'd like. But let's back off of the get type for just a moment, and let's just run this guy so you see what happens to dog. But before we do that, let's get rid of this line here. So now we're just instantiating 3 different animals. Of course, we want to also bring back our print statement so that we can see that all of them are warm-blooded animals. So let's go ahead. So we got a camel as a warm-blooded animal, monkey is a warm-blooded, dog is at this point, it doesn't seem like there's any difference, right, between the dog, monkey, and the camel, because they all use mammals. So even though we use the word dog, because it goes up to here and sees mammal, it's going to go into the mammal class, do that initiation first, and then come back and do any programs down here, or subprograms, I probably should say. So that worked out pretty well. So let's try to do one more piece here. And actually, to be honest, I think I'll just delete that. And we're going to do a D1 type. We don't have D2 type down here. Don't worry about the rest. So now what we're going to do is we run the 3 that we had before, but now we're going to add the get type. Well, what does get type do? Well, if you notice, D1 can only be created once. So now it's become an instance of a dog that says rough. But once we have that instance, we can make it do things like get type. So in this case, we might want to identify the specific type of mammal it is. In this case, what type of dog it is. So what this does is calls this function, and if you notice, the self is still there, so you want to put self in that function, but as you can see, it doesn't take any other parameters, so there's no real reason to do anything else in those parentheses. And then when I do the D1 get, it's just going to print out you own a self.type. Well, it's going to say, well, what is self? I don't know. What are we doing currently? Oh, we're doing dog. That says, okay, what is the dog noise? Whatever we brought noise in as, and then in that case, we'll do rough. So let's go ahead and hit start. And as you can see, you own a dog. Maybe I put it a little lower. You own a dog that says rough. Guess we could have put a period on that, but we'll wait. We'll wait that for the upgrade or the update for that one. Now, this is the problem you're going to have, and some of you are going to say, I'd like to do this for mammal as well. If I hit start, what I'm going to get here is I can't use that because remember, these are one way. These classes. Since dog is inheriting mammal, mammal can't inherit dog. And a lot of times we'll call this parent-child. So think of yourself as like your mom or dad has thick black hair. And you have thick black hair. You inherited those genes from your parents. They can't get them from you. So what do we do? So in this case, when I say M1 get type, I'm trying to reach into dog, but I've not inherited anything. Oddly enough, the reverse is true. So in other words, let's do this. Let's do Control C. I'll name it slightly different, but these guys, the local function always has precedence over an inherited function. But I could do this. Oops, sorry about this space. And I'm going to just this get type. But in this case, we are going to say get pieces. I don't know. To be honest, I'm not good on pressure. So here we go. When I run this, I still get an error. Oops. And one of the reasons why I get an error is because I didn't change that. So let's change this to get piece. And now it's running. And as you'll see, it'll say get piece, can't do it. The reason being is mammal has no attribute noise. So you think, well, I thought we brought the blank space in as a noise. Well, you did, but you didn't apply it to the mammal. So you actually would have to set it up as self.noise equals noise. And sometimes that can be confusing, and a lot of people say don't use those two as the same, because this noise is really just a temporary variable that we can use. Again, it's kind of like a function. Once we're done, it's gone. The self.noise will stay. The self.type will stay. Type and noise, they get erased or written over. So now if I say this, everything works out fine. You have a camel that says, well, unfortunately, it doesn't say anything. You have a quiet camel. But hopefully you get the idea of what you can do. You can also put this in here. If I could do one call, and let's tab it out, and I could do get underscore piece. And let's go ahead and put that self in there again. And then press start. Oops. Except I didn't define it. So let's go ahead and define it. And as you can see, I can grab that get self because it's available to me in this class. So you may not see this right away, but really you'd see it. Notice how it says you own a dog that says rough, rough. Those come from this line and this line. So that you get that second dog that says rough because now we've actually called that mammal piece. And in fact, let's just rerun that just in case you don't believe me. And so now when we run it, you only say one line that gets dogs that get rough. Okay, the next part of the equation was that we're going to put this in their own files. So I'll come back and see that.